Alabama's going to look to keep things rolling in week 3 against Wisconsin. Let's talk about it right here on Tide Talk Live. Roll Tide, everybody. Welcome in to Tide Talk Live, powered by the Believe Network. Stacey Blackwood here, riding solo on our Alabama Wisconsin preview and prediction show. Jake and myself could not carve out a time this week to record together, so going to be doing this one solo. But we have Jake's thoughts that we're going to include here in the show later on. Excited to break down this matchup against the Badgers, an SEC Big Ten battle in Tuscaloosa. Who can't get excited about something like that? So we're going to dive into that here in just a minute. But as always, make sure you do like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Jump in the comments. Give us your score prediction, your thoughts on the game, your bold predictions, just your thought process in this big-time matchup between Alabama and Wisconsin. Once again, we are powered by the Believe Network, which gets us and makes us free and available wherever you find your podcast. So make sure you download and subscribe on Apple Podcast and leave us those 5-star written reviews to help us grow there as well. So as we dive into this matchup, there's several things that we're going to be looking at in terms of keys to the game and key factors of what this matchup is going to look like. And I think we need to start from an injury standpoint. Alabama's dealing with injuries. Wisconsin is dealing with injuries. Even though we're just a couple weeks into the season, injuries have kind of piled up for both teams. So we'll kind of look at that for a little bit. We'll get into the score prediction and bowl predictions and kind of keys to this matchup here as well as the show continues. But let's start with the injury standpoint. We'll start with Alabama. It looks like Ryan Williams is going to play. Coach DeBoer kind of made that announcement on Wednesday night during head coach and also during his teleconference on Wednesday as well. So it looks like Alabama's going to get their star sophomore receiver back in this game. And look, I know a lot of people have been down on Ryan Williams after his week 1 performance against Florida State where he had some drops, didn't look his best, really looked uncomfortable in that game. But I really believe he's going to come back and have a big-time performance here against Wisconsin. I really like how this offense is kind of starting to mold and kind of find itself with Ty Simpson as a starting quarterback. So excited to have Ryan Williams back in the starting lineup. I also think we need to look at what potentially Jam Miller being back, potentially Tim Keenan possibly being back on the defensive line. I'm not sure where we sit with those guys exactly, but there's a chance they play. But if I was a betting man and had to guess, I don't think we see those two. I think this coaching staff is going to give them another week plus the bye week before Alabama heads to Athens to take on the Georgia Bulldogs here in a couple weeks for that big time SEC matchup. So unsure about Tim Keenan and Jam Miller, but Alabama is going to get Ryan Williams back, which is huge for this Crimson Tide offense. Wisconsin has injuries on offense as well. You look at their starting quarterback, it looks like he's going to be out. Danny O'Neal, who has been filling in the first couple games, will be the starter. Now, even though he's a true sophomore, he has a lot of experience. He was a starter for San Diego State last year as a true freshman. I think one of only 2 true freshmen to start at quarterback for the entire season for their teams in 2024. So this is a kid, although young, is very experienced. He's playing well right now for the Badgers. He's completing over 76% of his passes. He's got 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So this has been a very consistent player for the Badgers. Now, I know they have not played a Power 4 opponent yet. They've played some teams that they obviously outman, but O'Neal has played well and is obviously comfortable in this Wisconsin offense. So Danny O'Neal going to be getting the start at quarterback for the Badgers. Now, they've had some injuries along the offensive line as well. I think if you look at this, it's probably one of the weak spots of this Wisconsin team, which is so strange to say when you think about the history of this program. I think you could make the argument, and I want to say I heard this from a Wisconsin guy, that he's not sure this Wisconsin offensive line has been this bad in run blocking since the pre-Ron Dane era of Wisconsin football. So you're going back 25 plus years that this Wisconsin offensive line has not been able to generate much in the run game the way that they have in the past. So that's obviously something to look at. So Danny O'Neal starting at quarterback for them with the injury to their normal starting quarterback in Billy Edwards. So that is something to monitor as well. So that's kind of that kind of wraps up from an injury standpoint the key players who could be out for each team, or key guys who are going to step up and fill roles for each team as well. Now let's kind of dive into what we believe to be some of the keys to the game and what we're hoping to see from this Alabama team. And I talked with Jake, and we kind of have the same feeling in terms of what we're hoping to see from this Alabama football team in this matchup. And I think it really starts with intensity. Alabama needs to match the intensity that they had against Louisiana Monroe. Everybody knows and has heard and has talked about at nauseum what happened in that Florida State game with both offensively and defensively, where guys just did not seem to play with that intensity level that we're used to seeing an Alabama football team play with. So that's the most critical factor in this game. Alabama's best 22 is better than Wisconsin's best 22. In fact, Alabama's top 50 is better than Wisconsin's top 50. So the talent is in Alabama's favor, which is why the Crimson Tide is nearly favored by 3 touchdowns. So it's about what Alabama does. Can they show up? Can they play consistent? Can they play with fire? Can they play with intensity? And can they keep it up for 60 minutes? We saw that against Louisiana Monroe. We didn't see any type of let up in that game. And that was a very positive sign considering what happened in week 1 against Florida State. Now we've talked about how we think Florida State's a really good football team. That could prove to be, a less significant loss than what we initially thought after that game concluded there on August 30th. But Alabama has to play Alabama football. That's what it boils down to. They have the talent, so that's not the question. It's, can you play with that sense of urgency? Can you play with intensity? And can you show up for 60 minutes and give your best effort on each and every play? Each play lasts about 5 seconds. All you got to do is play with your hair on fire for 5 seconds at a time, regroup, and play the next play. And if Alabama can do that, they should be fine in this game. So that's the key factor in this game. The overwhelming key factor in this game for the Crimson Tide is, can you show up and play 60 minutes with intensity and effort, just like they did against the Warhawks of ULM last weekend in Tuscaloosa. So you have the home field advantage once again. Can you show up and give that fan base something to cheer about? That's what we're looking at mostly. Also, another key factor that Jake and I both agree on in this game, and it's not just about this game, it's really about what this team needs to do moving forward as well. It's continuing to build an identity in the run game. Now, look, the running game has not been bad, I would say, the first 2 weeks, but it has not been at the level that I think it needs to be if Alabama wants to compete for not only an SEC championship, but also for a berth in the college football playoff. Look, if Jam Miller does play, Alabama obviously needs to get him involved in this game early and often. But the way Kevin Riley has showed up and showed out the first 2 weeks of this season, and I think you see the coaching staff having a lot of confidence in this kid. I think he had 13, the most touches of anybody on Alabama's team last week. I think 13 plus touches. I may be wrong on that. But Kevin Riley is a guy who Alabama needs to make a focal point of this offense, and I think we're going to see Kevin Riley bust one this week against the Badgers in the ground game. Now, look, Wisconsin has a big, stout defensive front. No surprise there. But when you see this Alabama offensive line struggle, it's more against those guys who are more quick twitch, maybe on the lighter side, who can get around them quicker and beat you with speed rather than power. So I think from a physicality standpoint and from a matchup standpoint and from a stylistic standpoint, this is a good matchup for this Alabama offensive line to get some push, to out physical that Wisconsin defensive front. And I think you could see some explosive plays in the running game for Alabama this week against the Badgers. And I think that's going to be highlighted by Kevin Riley, a guy who is just, I mean, he is on the edge of busting a big play, a home run top play for this Alabama offense on the ground. So just kind of making the rushing attack a focal point of the offense this week and kind of creating an identity on the ground, not just for this game against Wisconsin, but moving forward throughout the remainder of the 2025 season. Get Riley his touches. If Jam Miller plays, get him involved early and often, kind of get his feet wet here in this season, but also just continue to be consistent in your focus on running the football in this game against Wisconsin. I think that's a big time factor for this Alabama offense this week against the Badgers. Now, defensively for Alabama, it's about stopping the run. Now, look, Wisconsin, the first couple years under Coach Fickle, tried to move away from that physical brand of football that they were really known for the last 30 plus years, and tried to spread the football around and play more of a pass heavy type of offense. That's changed now. They're reverting back more to their old ways of kind of a more physical brand of football, getting downhill on the ground, but they've struggled a little bit creating much movement in the ground game, like I talked about earlier. So if Alabama can play the run, which is really still waiting to be seen, then Alabama has a really good chance of winning this football game in runaway fashion. So it's about stopping the run. It's about playing more physical than your opponent. And if Alabama can limit what Wisconsin does on the ground, they have a really good chance of winning this football game handily. And look, now don't get me wrong, Dylan Jones, Wisconsin's starting running back, he through 2 games he has 24 carries for 109 yards. Now look, that's not just elite numbers, especially when you consider the competition that he has played against the first couple of weeks. But Dylan Jones was a highly recruited kid coming out of high school, a top 10 running back when he was coming out, I think 2 cycles ago. So this kid can play. He's very talented, and he is capable of making plays against a defense if you're not playing sound fundamental football. So look, with Tim Keenan possibly out again, we know Jeremiah Beeman's out. It's up to young guys like London Simmons, Isaiah Faga, James Smith. Can these guys wreak havoc for this on this Wisconsin offensive line and create a lot of negative plays? I think if they can do that, they can put Danny O'Neal in uncomfortable situations, force some turnovers, and Alabama can really control this game from start to finish. But it all comes down to stopping the run and being physical with the line of scrimmage. If Alabama can do that, they are going to put themselves in a good position to be successful against the Badgers. Now, look, score prediction time. Well, at first, let's get to some bold predictions. Jake loves bold predictions. He sent me his bold predictions right before I started recording the show. His bold prediction is that Ty Simpson is going to throw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdown passes. And he also added a bold prediction for the defense where James Smith has 2 sacks. Now, we'll start with Ty. And look, Ty wasn't bad against Florida State, but he wasn't great. And I think if you want your team to respond in a positive way, if you want to kind of rejuvenate or light a fire on your team, have your quarterback go off. If your starting quarterback goes off like Jake is predicting here, that is a big time play for this Alabama offense and for this Alabama team. If Ty can continue to build off his elite performance last week where he went a perfect 17 of 17, this Alabama offense can start finding its rhythm, find its confidence. You're going to get some playmakers back in Ryan Williams and potentially Jam Miller. The best of this Alabama offense is ahead of them this season, and Ty Simpson can kind of kickstart that and continue his growth and development with another strong performance against Wisconsin. Now, defensively, James Smith, we saw this kid wreak havoc against ULM last week. I think 3 tackles for loss for this guy. It seemed like he was in the backfield almost each and every play. He needs to continue to do that. This is a game wrecker when he plays up to his potential, but we need to see it at a more consistent level. We talked about how in the offseason, how much of an impact he made on that Michigan game and the bowl game, how he just consistently was in the backfield. We didn't see much of that against Florida State. We saw it against ULM. We need to see it each and every week from James Smith. Now, look, this Alabama team only has 1 sack through 2 games. I believe that's from Keon Sapp. So, look, this defensive front, this front seven, needs to start getting after the quarterback. Now, look, the pressures have sort of been there, but you have to finish. I'm looking at you, James Smith. I'm looking at you, LT Overton. I'm looking at you, Quay Rusall, Jordan Renaud, a guy who's getting a lot of playing time as well. You have to finish when you generate pressure. You have to get the quarterback on the ground. I think we're going to start to see that this week. Jake's bold prediction is that James Smith gets 2 sacks. I'm going to change it up a little bit. My bold prediction is that this Alabama team, defensive team, gets at least 3.5 sacks against a struggling Wisconsin offensive line. That's my bold prediction for the Alabama defense. My bold prediction for the Alabama offense is twofold. I think Ryan Williams has an explosive play, and I think Kevin Riley has an explosive play, both for touchdowns in this game. I think Ryan Williams gets some of these Alabama fans off his back a little bit after his lackluster performance against the Seminoles in Week 1. So Kevin Riley, Ryan Williams, big time performances on Saturday against the Wisconsin Badgers. Now, score prediction time. Last year Alabama went up to Madison, Wisconsin, and beat the Badgers pretty bad there uh, in Wisconsin. I'm trying to pull up the score from last year. It was 42-10. And what's funny is Jake's score prediction this week is 42-10 once again. And look, I know that sounds outrageous, but and I think Wisconsin is an improved team from last year. Now, how much I'm not sure. The struggles on the offensive line are evident. They're playing with a backup quarterback, although he is experienced and he's played pretty well the first couple weeks of the season. I'm just not sure they can match the talent level that they're going to be facing against Alabama on Saturday. So I could see another 42-10 top game this weekend as well. That's what Jake's prediction is. I'm going to change it up so it's not identical to last year and it's not identical to Jake. I'm going to say Alabama wins 45-10. So just a little bit of difference. I'm kind of cheating there, but I really think Alabama comes out playing with intensity, with a word I used a couple weeks ago, with reckless abandon, where they're just playing all out all the time, flying to the football on defense, being physical, creating the havoc instead of waiting for the havoc to come to them. I think you're going to see this offense play downhill. I think you're going to see them make more explosive plays than what we've seen the first couple weeks, because I think Grubb has been setting up some of those top plays. I still think we see a lot of Lotsier Brooks. I still think we see a focus of getting Jeremy Bernard the football and letting him make plays with the ball in his hands. So I just really think this Wisconsin defense is going to struggle to consistently stop this Alabama offense and not allow them to make explosive plays. And defensively for Alabama, I think we see a defense, a front seven defensive performance that this Alabama fan base is hoping to see. And I think you're going to see James Smith, LT Overton, and those guys make a lot of plays in the Wisconsin backfield, creating some tackles for loss, creating some sacks, and creating some turnovers as well for this Wisconsin offense, who has not faced a team anywhere near the talent level of this Alabama football team. But that is it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Jump in the comments. Give us your score prediction. Give us your bowl prediction. Give us your players of the game, anything like that. Just your entire thoughts on this matchup between Alabama and Wisconsin at 11 a.m. on ABC there at Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Cannot wait to watch that game. We will be back in the post game for a live instant reaction to hopefully Alabama getting another win, moving to 2-1, moving into the bye week, and getting ready for that epic matchup against the Georgia Bulldogs here in a couple weeks. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Also, follow us and subscribe and download on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just wherever you find your podcast. Make sure you support us there as well. We are thankful for the Believe Network for providing us that platform. So thanks to those guys. Thank you so much for your support. There would not be us without you. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. Until next time, roll tide.